In this video, we are going to look at filling out our Contact Us page. Now with our Contact Us page, we want to essentially have a form where you're going to submit information that the website should receive in some way. Let's go ahead and open up our Contact Us page. We have our menu, we're good on that. Let's make a header called Contact Us. I am going to have us do a little CSS for this, so I'm going to make a contact us.css file. We're going to add in our link to that. So let's copy this, paste it, do the contact us, save that. Okay. I'm going to borrow some of the CSS we've used before. In our home page, we have this class called InnerBox that helps us format what we have with that, like the spacing and those borders, etc. Just going to use that. Add a small paragraph called input your information below. Save it, just see how it looks real quick. Okay. Again, the homepage CSS did most of this orange area for us. And let's get to the form. So let's go ahead and make a form. So before I do that, I should say that when you make a form in HTML, there's actually a tag for it. So if you want to submit information, you can just go ahead and create a form tag. We'll talk about this get and post in a little bit. It's going to create an action. I'm not going to address that just yet. We'll talk about that in a few. And what are we going to put in the form? So with a form, you need to put different inputs, things that you want information from the user. There's a spot to put the information in, and there's also a label to describe that spot. I'm going to first make a label. We'll worry about the for in a second. I'm just going to call this first name, colon. That's what's describing the input. And then I'll make the actual spot where the user puts the information in. We'll do input, the type is text, and there's two attributes we're going to use, an ID, and call mine first name, and a name, first name. The for here, the label with the for needs to correspond with whatever ID of the input you're associated with. So if this is first name, let's paste it in here. And now everything should be set up with this section. Let's go ahead over here. Click refresh. That is outside. Whoops. I need to put my form inside my inner box. We'll try that one more time. Okay. And now we have our first piece of the form. We have first name, the label, and then the spot where you put your first name. Okay, cool. Why don't we add some quick styling so we can see where this form is. I have my contact us.css. I'm going to grab our home page's coloring real quick, just so we have that. Okay, so I have the colors. Since I'm only going to have one form on my page, I'm just going to do form for my CSS selector. It's just going to know it's the one form I have. Let's do background color. Let's do var light cyan. I'm going to give it a little padding, maybe 20 pixels. See how that's looking. Okay, maybe a border too. Just to make a really definitive, really slight border. Use that gunmetal solid. Okay, good. So now we have just our first name. Let's also add a last name as well. Basically, you can copy this code, put it down here, rename this as last name. Same thing with the ID, same thing with the name, and here as well. Let's see how that looks. All right, they're both on there. Kind of formatted a little weird. We probably want them on separate lines. If you want to push something down, you can use a BR tag. So I'll do a BR in between. One BR is just going to make it on a new line. If you want a little bit more space, do a second one so we can add more white space in between. An alternative to this would be to add margin below, but this will save us a little bit of time. If you wanted these inputs below the labels, you could also add a BR after the label, like this. And now it's below. Up to you. I'm kind of okay with the previous way, so I'm just going to remove that last BR. All right. So that's some basic information we can submit. Let's look at actually trying to submit this. Right now I can type in information, but I can't really do anything with it. It's just lurking there on the website. We usually need a submit button on a form. Let's go ahead and add that. I'll add 2 more BR tags. And then I'll do input. We're going to do a different type here. We use text when you input text, and this is a submit type. All right. Now we have a submit button. Before we do that, I want to cover a few different ways you can submit things. Up here in the attribute, or in the form, we're going to add an attribute called method. And there's 2 main methods, get and post. You can use get if the information you're sending is not private, if there's nothing like secret. Let's start with get to begin with. If I go over here, refresh, type in my information, and click submit, you'll notice right away the information pops up here. First name equals Aaron, and last name equals Bunker. So it is recognizing both these pieces. There's actually an easy way to make a mistake. If you forget the name, like say I did not have the last name here, I'm just going to delete these, what we call URL parameters. Click refresh, type in Aaron, type in Bunker, both field type information, click submit, but only first name appears. That means only first name got submitted. That's because we omitted the last name as a name in our input. So this is me explaining why the name is important. If you don't have it, nothing gets submitted. It's almost like a dummy field. It doesn't do anything. So you got to have the name in order for the information to get submitted. Now let's look at our second method, post. We might want to use post when we have secret information. Let's look at an example. After the last name, I'm going to add 1 more section. I'm going to call it password. Let's just say for whatever reason you needed a login for your website. We'll do input, type password. They actually have a password option. It still needs an ID, password, and a name, password, and we need to add that in the for as well. So if I refresh, now we have the password field. Again, right now my method, we switched it to post. And the idea is post is for things you don't want sent, including passwords. They shouldn't be visible in the top of your URL link. So if I go over here and run the password, just type in random letters in here, you can see that the password field is just hidden to begin with. That's because it's a specific input type. You can then click submit, and notice the information didn't show up here, or at least first name did. Let's delete this. Let me show you one more time. If I submit this way, nothing got passed. There was no more information being shown up here. So that's the difference in the 2 methods. The get we can show, that can be public. The post can be private, a little bit less information displayed. Now, you might be wondering, what are we going to do with this information? Like, where does it go? That's where the action would come in. Unfortunately for the action, you need basically an outside coding language. You need some other backend or database service to store this information. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this class. That would take a whole another set of videos to explain just how to create something to receive your information. So right now, this information is just kind of going into the ether. It just, it doesn't really receive anywhere. So we're mostly just practicing with how we can view these form elements on our website. Okay, that's an intro to forms. In the next video, we'll look at a few more types of inputs.